used for the subsequent fermentation, but it is cooled to 64 degrees Celsius and used for the next step in the mashing process. The sugary liquid is cooled down to 16 to 20 degrees Celsius. And the resulting wort is pumped into the fermentation tank, the so-called washback, where it is mixed with yeast. The yeast cells ferment the sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide. The entire fermentation process takes up to 4 days. The beer-like wash has an alcohol content of 8 to 11% and can now be distilled for the first time. To initiate the distillation process, the wash is heated in the first copper still, the wash still. Copper is the ideal material for this because it is an excellent heat conductor and can also be easily formed. What's more, it eliminates unwanted sulfur compounds. The pot still consists of 3 parts: the kettle, the gooseneck or line arm, and finally the cooler. The size and shape of the still has an influence on the taste of the whisky. Alcoholic vapours rise in the neck of the still because alcohol evaporates at a lower temperature than water. The water is left in the still. In the shell and tube heat exchanger, the alcohol vapours are cooled and condense again. The result is known as low wine and has an alcohol content of 20 to 25%. The distillation process is now repeated in a second, smaller copper still, the so-called spirit still. This usually takes around 8 hours. In this step, the alcohol, and with it the majority of the flavourings and aromatic substances, is separated from the water and concentrated, resulting in a fine distillant with an alcohol content of 65 to 70% by volume. This distillant is separated by the distiller in the spirit safe into foreshot, middle cut and feints. The foreshot contains residues from the previous burning process as well as volatile toxic methanol. The middle cut, or heart, flows through a meter which is later used to determine how much spirit tax should be levied. In the feints, fusel oils are extracted, as they have a negative effect on the taste and can even be harmful. Now the fine distillant is pumped into the spirit receiver. The new make spirit is partially mixed with water and filled into oak barrels for final storage. After numerous trials and experiments, 2 types of wood have become the accepted standard material used for the storage and maturing of whisky: American white oak and European oak. Nowadays, whisky barrels are also made from Japanese oak. Years of aging in an oak barrel can account for 60 to 80% of the taste. Of course, the ingredients in the raw whisky, which is still very spicy after distillation, also give it its distinct flavour. However, it is only through storage that the whisky gets its final, round and unique taste. By law, Scottish whisky must be matured in the barrel for at least 3 years. As the wood breathes, between 1.5 and 2% of the liquid gold evaporates annually, which is called the angel's share. For the darker types of whisky, the distilleries prefer barrels in which sherry or port was previously stored. Used American bourbon barrels are used for lighter whiskies. Rum and Barolo barrels can also influence the taste of the whisky. The flavour and aroma is influenced not only by the wood of the barrel and the individual distillation process, but also by the surrounding climate and environment. Whiskies from the island of Islay, for example, get their very individual character from the salty sea air. Used barrels are regularly refurbished in cooperages, so that the barrels are used several times over, some for decades. Naturally, a whisky will absorb less flavour if it is matured in, for instance, a sherry barrel that has been used several times before. Thus, all these various factors intertwine over the years to create a distinctive whisky in each individual barrel. Slanjava.